हम काफ़ी टाइम से देख रहे थे कि कभी होगा कि हम लीड के लिए एक फाइट होगा एंड वी सॉ अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल ऑफ दैट बिटवीन पियास्ट्री, नॉरिस एंड वर्स्टैपेन।
और क्या लैंडो नॉरिस टॉप 5 में आएंगे या बॉटम 5 में? That is going to be the big question.
Now that's how bad that car is. If you take 23, 24 data compared to 25.
Right now, Red Bull are 141 points behind McLaren. No team has brought down a points deficit bigger than 115 points.
FanCode's Gearbox Podcast powered by MRF में आप सबका स्वागत है। ये है इस सीजन का छठा एपिसोड, लेकिन स्पेशल नंबर 6 नहीं है। आज का स्पेशल नंबर है 3 और इसकी एक खास वजह है। फॉर्मूला 1 जा रहा है ट्रिपल हेडर के लिए, 3 रेसेस इन अ रो, और फॉर्मूला 1 और मोटो जीपी दोनों में 3 चैंपियनशिप कंटेंडर्स उभर के आ रहे हैं और ये एक कमाल का सीजन हो रहा है पूरे मोटरस्पोर्ट्स की दुनिया में। ये है FanCode Gearbox powered by MRF. This is the show where we discuss all the big stories in the world of motorsport. And I have some really special guests with me today. This feels like home, gentlemen. This is amazing. Back together once again. Who are we, though? Who are we, Kunal? What do we do?
I think Motorsport fans.
Motorsport fans, yeah.
Who get paid to watch the sport. Talk about it.
Best job in the world.
Yeah. Hard to disagree. I mean, unless I was in the cockpit, which is probably a better job to have.
And you've done that.
Yeah, briefly. I mean, I wish that it wasn't as brief as it was, but like I keep saying, I ran out of money before I ran out of talent.
Okay, so who is this guy? That is Kunal Shah, the former marketing head of Force India. That's the past. The present is that he's someone who works on the Viaplay Formula 1 broadcast in Norway. So whenever you're watching a broadcast in Norway and you look at this expert who's giving you full insights about every single driver, their telemetry, where they're good, why they're so good, or what's happening behind the scenes, or what Dr. Márquez said, it's probably going to be Kunal. And that's him. So incredible that you're firstly here.
Yeah.
Took a long flight.
It took a long flight. We have 4 days, and I'm glad we could schedule a recording while I was here. Thank you for that introduction. It's fantastic to be on this episode, not virtually, but in physical presence as well. It's actually, it's for a change, especially with you and with Mr. F1 Stats Guru, whose stats are everywhere on the internet. So whether you follow him or not, whether you follow Formula 1 or not, his stats are either officially delivered or probably one of the most peddled, stolen stats on the market, I would say. So it's great to have you here as well, Sundaram.
मैं तो कहता हूँ, let's get right down into it. And I want to start with you, Sundaram. क्या हुआ मायामी में? What have we just witnessed? Three-peat for Oscar.
Although हम बोलते हैं कि Miami is not that great a layout, there's a lot of criticism that comes with Miami, but ultimately, surprisingly, we get to see some of the best racing in these sort of races, and it was a beautiful race. हम काफ़ी टाइम से देख रहे थे कि कभी होगा कि हम लीड के लिए एक फाइट होगा एंड वी सॉ अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल ऑफ दैट बिटवीन पियास्ट्री, नॉरिस एंड वर्स्टैपेन. Beautiful racing. Oscar Piastri doing a very important milestone in his entire single-seater career. 10 years he's been racing in single-seaters and for the very first time, उसने 3 races लगातार जीते हैं, पहली बार, and that too at a platform like Formula 1. Big statement on his behalf for this championship.
And he's actually surpassed Lando Norris for the number of race wins in Formula 1. He's now on 6, Lando is on 5, and he did so while beating Max Verstappen fair and square. That's so impressive.
I think Oscar Piastri was so calm in that cockpit. And I can sense that Max Verstappen finally has found a driver who is like, I have to be thoda मुश्किल से करना है, उसे थोड़ा आराम से करना है इसकी overtaking की planning. But truth be told, I think Miami was one more race where we are not watching Formula 1. We are watching the Max Verstappen show. In my mind, if Max keeps doing what he's doing, whether he's attacking, defending, taking pole positions, he is deciding Formula 1 kitna entertaining hoga. So if he puts it on pole, suddenly अरे slower car, third slowest, fourth slowest car में उसने pole वापस ले लिया, which he did on Saturday. Again in the race, we all should actually thank Max Verstappen that उसकी वजह से we had a battle between the top 3 drivers. क्योंकि जड़ा में उसने क्या किया, within 200 meters of the race, he picked up a penalty and there was no battle. So at least in Miami, the way he was defending, the way he was car positioning जो track पे उन्होंने की was incredible stuff. So for all the young racers out there, watch his onboards, watch what he did against Piastri and Norris in a slower car. And he said, I'm just going to go have fun. And that's what he did. I was a little disappointed. Lando Norris ne bataya post-race ke Max was not smart. He shouldn't have raced us. He should have saved his tires and got a podium. But truth be told, if Max has chosen to go racing versus managing tires, it is great for all of us fans of Formula One that we didn't watch, we didn't watch drivers just sitting doing nothing. We watch incredible racing action.
Max himself is such a factor in these sort of races. He's not any other driver. It is Max Verstappen, and he's arguably the hardest racer on the grid right now. So how you're able to tackle him is also something that you have to study, which Kunal said. You really need to look at his onboards and देखो कि कहाँ पे मैं इसको थोड़ा edge कर सकता हूँ, कहाँ पे मुझे एक advantage मिल सकता है. That Piastri has been doing so well. He's not going over the line. He knows how to use the rule book also and how to mentally kind of play with Max Verstappen. Lando's probably still not really learned that. We've seen that in the last couple of races and also last year. And वो थोड़ा कभी-कभी वो कमी महसूस होती है कि maybe Lando's not able to go wheel to wheel with Max.
But F1 के power rankings में, हमारे power rankings में, where does he rank? Now we find out who are our top 5 drivers so far this year और कौन होंगे हमारे bottom 5 में. और क्या Lando Norris top 5 में आएंगे या bottom 5 में? That is going to be the big question. I know there are some controversial opinions coming. So let's settle down. Let's get ourselves in the right zone. Who's going to begin? And I think we should go with the top 5 first. Who's top 5?
I'll go ahead.
You'll go.
Okay, I have Piastri, I have Verstappen, I have Russell, I have Antonelli, I have Hajar, and I have Russell.
Interesting. So that's your top 5. What's your top 5 completely?
I would take Max, Oscar, George, Hajar, and if I can go completely left field, even the likes of say Oliver Ben.
Oh come on, guys! You're ruthless. Alex Albon has scored double the points tally of Williams from last season, and he's not in either of your top 5.
I'll put a Behrman and an Albert in top 5. I'd squeeze it in. And
No, Norris is not there in our top 5, by the way.
He's not. Exactly.
And I tell you, I'm very impressed with Albon. Okay, but I also look at it this way: that his teammate has also been impressive. Your favorite driver, Carlos Sainz, right? And we've got to remember, when you say our power ranking, our top 5, just because somebody's done well doesn't mean they make it there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody has to do better than well. It's like saying if you have a sales target to sell 10 pens today and you sell 10 pens today, you've done what is expected of you.
Yeah.
But you're exceptionally well if you sell 11 or 12 pens today for it. So I'm using the same metric. So
Yeah, Williams is red context.
Exactly.
So that Williams is actually a quick car. We saw that, they were quicker than the Ferrari, and both drivers are putting it where it should be. The reason why I said, Oliver Behrman is he's been 20th and last more than any other driver. Okay. But from 20th and last, he's still gone ahead and scored points. I think he's been last 20th 3 times in Grand Prix, once in the sprint, still scored points. And I would, like to highlight such performances more, because you're in a midfield team, you're a rookie driver, you're 20th, nobody's looking at you, cameras don't pan on you, it's just your race engineer and maybe your team principal constantly looking at you. So, yes, Albon, but I would also put, an Oliver Behrman there. So that's my top 5.
Who's yours?
My top 5, Oscar number 1, because he's beaten Max. So for me, he has to go higher up than Max.
Yeah.
Second would be Max Verstappen, because it's unbelievable what he's done. He's got the most pole positions so far this year. मैंने सोचा नहीं था कि 6 rounds बाद it won't be a McLaren driver, but it'll actually be Max Verstappen with that record.
He actually has more poles than both. I mean, he has the same number of poles as both McLaren drivers combined, 3 and 3.
It's crazy. It is crazy. For me, Alex Albon gets into third, because yes, that Williams is a fast car, लेकिन उससे results निकालना भी एक art है. And Alex Albon ने वो कला दिखाई है. And he's got double the points that he scored. In fact, double the points that Williams scored last year within the first 6 races this season. And yes, my favorite Carlos is impressive, but it'll take time. That's Albon in 3. For me, number 4 would be George Russell. 2 front row starts. It's been phenomenal what he's doing. And just the way he's able to warm up his tires in qualifying. It's a skill that not a lot of other drivers have been able to match up. And that Mercedes is constantly there. So Russell's in third. For me, fourth, and Kimi Antonelli would be number 5 because a pole position at 18 years old, that's invaluable. But we need to now very quickly go down to the bottom 5. The tricky but here, we can't elaborate as much because, of course, we have to also focus on MotoGP and other stuff. And this is where I know controversy hone hi wali hai. I'll lead the way. I'll extinguish the fire a little bit for you guys. Bottom 5, I'm going for Liam Lawson. I'm going for Lando Norris because I genuinely feel with that car, you can do so much more. And racecraft, देखकर काफी निराशा हुई है मुझे. And we've all given it time. So Lando's there. Fernando Alonso also. Sorry. And you're also wearing the green.
Yes.
But I know it's not been his fault. But pointless after 6 races. Cannot happen. It's inexcusable.
It's inexcusable, but also the fact is that, I mean, that's where, for me as well, Fernando is there in the bottom 5, but just the fact that a lot of those incidents for him, even yesterday in the sprint, were really not his fault, even his crash back in Australia. But the spin yesterday was so uncharacteristic of Fernando, and I think we've seen a few more mistakes from Fernando this year than we've seen in the last 3-4 years in itself. And at some point yesterday, I really felt, is it the car that's really not being able to give him the platform to push it? Or is it him kind of losing his powers? I was a little doubtful, I'll be very honest with you there. But then you do expect that from Fernando, that he is that driver who's able to push that car beyond its limits. And it feels having a big 0 right next to his name is a little disappointing.
There's one whole context on Fernando and on Aston Martin more. In Miami, Aston Martin was the slowest team, but how slow were they? Right? There were 3 drivers. There were lapped: Sauber, Hulkenberg, both the Aston Martins, and Fernando was the lead Aston Martin. But he was 20 seconds behind Nico Hulkenberg. Now, that's how bad that car is. If you take 23, 24 data compared to 25, Aston Martin has progressively gotten slower, right? So that's the context. But
it's evolving.
It's evolving. But for me, Fernando's not in bottom 5 because if you see qualifying, 4 out of the 6 races, he's been 13th. Okay, now why am I celebrating a 13th? Because Aston Martin, Andy Cowell has said, that's the pace of the car. Now imagine you got a driver who is delivering to the pace of the car. In sprint qualifying in Miami, he was 10th. And Fernando actually got on the car and said, it's illogical that I put that car in 10th place. So he's delivering closer to the potential of the car, maybe sometimes over-delivering it, as we've known Fernando to be. Him not scoring points is actually just down to the fact that he's qualifying in positions. He's qualifying in positions a car shouldn't be in. Hence, he's racing faster cars. He's taking more risks. That spin was uncharacteristic as well. But again, he was just chasing faster cars ahead of him, and then that's just what happens.
So, if you have to sum it up, what's your bottom 5 looking like?
I would also put, so we've said Liam Lawson, we've said, I would put Esteban Ocon there. Again, bit of pinch of salt, team, we don't need settings, he's figuring out. But I still think that Oliver Behrman has just probably done a little better in there, despite Esteban driving at 5th place to whichever race. I think it was China where he got it, but lots of disqualifications. Was it disqualifications?
Yeah, China.
So I would, and again, controversial, please don't attack me, but Lewis Hamilton as well.
High five. He's in my bottom 5. I agree. Yeah.
And again, context. There's been so much hype. And suddenly he's found himself lacking against Charles. He's trying all he can do that. In Miami, we finally saw an explosion on radio. Lewis was being sarcastic. He's telling an Italian engineer to go and have tea. Well, in Italy, yeah, they have coffee.
It's a crime.
Yeah. And then what else? He said, Carlos is 1.4 behind. Should I also let him pull through? So all that sarcasm is, frustration coming through. I honestly think this era of Formula One, the way you're supposed to drive these cars, the way you're supposed to extract performance, get lap time, is just so away from Lewis's natural style that the best way to, if you're a Lewis Hamilton fan, LH44, great stuff, you just have to wait till 2026 and hope that that's more natural to a driver extracting lap time. And that's probably what will work for Lewis Hamilton.
Bottom 5. Sum it up. Who's your bottom 5?
Yeah, so definitely we have Lawson, we have Pluan for me, Lewis Hamilton, Lando Norris. And on the same lines, actually, I'm actually going to go with Yuki Sonoda. Because you look at an Isaac Hadjar, you look at a Kimi Antonelli trying to really perform beyond what was expected of them. And in that regard, I think Yuki Sonoda is slightly underperforming for me, because in the bigger context of things, bigger picture for the team, you have a Max Verstappen putting the car in the top five, and then you have Yuki Sonoda qualifying P10 and not really racking up a lot of points. This is actually affecting Red Bull's constructors title chances. Right now, Red Bull are 141 points behind McLaren. No team has brought down a points deficit bigger than 115 points to win the constructors title. So effectively, you can talk based on history that Ferrari and Red Bull are out of the constructors championship already. That's based on history at least. But it's important that Yuki is able to be as close as Max Verstappen, and that's a very, very big thing. I was doing a little bit of data crunching, numbers crunching to figure this out. In a third of the races in the ground effect era, Max Verstappen has had only his teammate plus or two positions around him, and that's a big, big differentiator compared to a McLaren or even a Mercedes, because you don't have two drivers running close to each other. You're not able to play strategy, you're not able to play the team game there, and it's very, very difficult that Yuki is not up there with Max. It's that's why I think Yuki.
We will never stop this way. We will never stop. We've been going on about this for so long.
I still have a comment on what he said about 2-1, but okay,
We can keep
carrying on about 2-1 at this moment.
which is what he thought so unfortunately in my bottom five. It is what I'll just sum it up very quickly. So my bottom five: Lawson, Alonso, Doohan has to be a part of it. Lewis Hamilton, because he's not able to get that last dead the performance on the car. और अनबन काफी हो रही है उनकी और टीम के बीच में. And Lando Norris, मेरी ज्यादा उम्मीदें थी उनसे. So I just hope that they're able to recover. And going into the triple header, there's lots of drivers that need to perform better. देखेंगे क्या सब होगा जब Formula 1 लौटेगा इमोला में for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, जहां बहुत सारे टीम्स के पास होंगे बहुत सारे upgrades और European season properly kick off होगा. So Formula 1 could be seeing a totally different pecking order, and you would not want to miss this. And the same can also be said for the world of motorbike racing. MotoGP में पागलपन मच रहा है. Marc Marquez is basically fighting himself. That's what it is all about. He either wins it or he bins it. And finally, we've seen कि Alex Marquez अब एक Grand Prix winner बन चुके हैं. And I remember Sundaram, couple of weeks ago we were talking about the same thing. कि यार MotoGP में is going to be a Marquez washout. But we didn't quite expect that Alex Marquez would be leading the World Championship at this stage. Next up, we're going to France, Le Mans. It's an iconic race. और वहाँ Alex Marquez walks in as the championship leader with a 1-point advantage. I think what we're missing out in terms of a championship battle in Formula 1, we're definitely getting it here in MotoGP. And Alex is doing that on a year-old Ducati. That's crazy.
I think that's the highlight of it. Like you said at the very end, he's actually on a bike that's a year older, but the sort of performances he's able to extract from it. I think he's been P2 in every single sprint.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, and he's been right up there. So arguably he's one of the most consistent drivers in terms of results this year, and that's why he's at the very top of the standings. Marquez has had a few slip-ups, especially in the race. Like you said, he's really not been able to be at one with the bike. And then Pecco's also very consistent, but at gap of 20 points to Alex is looking quite big at this point.
I'll tell you where I want to be. I want to be in the Marquez household, sitting with the parents, sitting with the two riders. We see them to the Schumacher brothers in Formula 1. And I'd love to see how aggressive Mark, who's of course the dominating legend of MotoGP, handles his brother on track. I still remember how Michael Schumacher was most ruthless against Ralf Schumacher. There was a pit wall, he was driving him through that pit wall and not giving a millimeter. I'd love to see Mark doing that, and then going back, having lunch or dinner or coffee with the Marquez family and hearing what the family has to say about the two riders.
Exactly. And the family should be so proud because both the Marquez brothers are actually beating all the Italians on the Ducati, which is a big thing. क्योंकि पिछले रेस में स्पेनिश जीपी में हमने यही देखा था कि दोनों स्पेनिश राइडर्स मार्क और एलेक्स काफी बढ़िया प्रदर्शन दिखा रहे थे, लेकिन जो इटालियन कैंप है, the guys who've actually developed the Ducati to get it to the level where it is now right now, they were struggling. And I want to get your insights on this, Kunal, because जब आप Force India में थे, you saw a very similar circumstance with Nico Hülkenberg and with Sergio Perez, where Nico Hülkenberg was the incumbent. उन्होंने काफी मेहनत की थी वो Force India को develop करने के लिए. And suddenly in came Sergio Perez at the start of 2014 and got a podium in the second race, the first race, wasn't it? Bahrain.
Yeah.
What's the mood in the camp like when the incumbent gets beaten by someone who just walks into the team and suddenly they're like, yaar, मैंने कुछ कम किया क्या? Was I not getting the maximum from the car or the bike?
And it's also similar to McLaren where we go, right? Like, Lewis has been at 100 plus races. He's been through the worst. Suddenly Piastri aaya and he's, walking in like he owns the team. Frankly, after a point, racing teams, we gravitate to the rider or the driver who's just faster. You can be a Schumacher, which was the same case of Mick Schumacher as well. And you can be whoever you want to be. What always doesn't lie is the clock. So if you're fastest in the clock, the team will back you, the team will support you. And I think that's what's going to happen, continue to happen in MotoGP as well, in Ducati as well.
उनकी लड़ाई सुंदरम उनके आप से अपने आप से ही है because it's either win it or bin it. और मार्केस के साथ हमने यही देखा. He's still not comfortable enough with that Ducati. Sure, he's still the fastest, but हम ये देख रहे हैं कि लगातार कहीं ना कहीं छोटी मोटी गलतियां आ रही हैं जिससे he's dropping the race win. Like in the USA, like in Jerez as well, it's going to be tough for him to get to grips with the riding style of the Ducati. और हैरान करने वाली बात तो ये है कि वो comfortable ना होकर भी सबसे तेज है by a long way out.
And I think that's how Mark Marquez also operates. He's really going to push, but then there's always a little bit that he feels that is really not up to the mark. And we've also seen that with the Honda bikes as well. He's being very vocal about it in the last recent years. But you also need to understand this is his first year with the Ducati team. And yes, he's able to outperform it to such a level. There'll be a little bit of, unhappiness or the fact that there is a little bit more that the bike can give him. But look at where he is. 1 point off the championship lead. It's
After two DNFs.
after 2 DNFs.
Will MotoGP return to India?
I was just about to ask you.
Kyuki, it is on the provisional calendar. There have been announcements made. I am aware that the UP government is working very hard to get promoter partners. It should happen in India next year. I would love to see you as the voice of MotoGP in
Once again.
So I'm excited to see how MotoGP develops on FanCode in India at the both international circuit next year, and I'll probably be there.
And it was such a spectacular event the first time it happened. Like, मेरे ख्याल से 70,000 से भी ऊपर लोग आए थे वो रेस को देखने के लिए. और मैं वहाँ था. I was commentating there from the grandstand, and the vibe was incredible. To the point, riders, team principals, all the people working, they said they couldn't hear anything because the crowd was overpowering them. That's how fanatic we are in India about MotoGP and about bikes. And FanCode is bringing all of that magic to you. You're able to watch MotoGP every single race, every single session live. So make sure कि जब French Grand Prix आएगी Le Mans पे, आप उसको मिस ना कीजिएगा क्योंकि Marquez डोमिनेट कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उनकी लड़ाई अपने आप से है. Alex Marquez भी अब साबित कर रहे हैं दुनिया को कि वो भी एक रेस जीत सकते हैं. And who can ever count down Eco Bagnaia and the Yamaha of Fabio Quartararo? What a season is turning out to be in MotoGP, and you don't want to miss it. All of the action will be live on FanCode. तो चलो फिर बात करते हैं इंडियन मोटरस्पोर्ट की दुनिया की, क्योंकि हम जितनी बातचीत फॉर्मूला 1 की करते हैं शायद उससे दुगनी बात हम करते हैं कि इंडियन मोटरस्पोर्ट में एक्चुअली क्या चल रहा है. Because we're also involved, right? We both work on the Indian Formula 4 Championship, Indian Racing League. I'm lucky enough to be able to do the Indian Supercross Racing League as well. You, Kunal, what do I say? You've worked on so many championships and been so involved with so many young drivers who are coming up the ranks. Particularly Jehan, particularly Kush. And now all of us can sit here and talk about another Indian origin driver who's excelled on the global stage. Arvid Lindblad has become the youngest winner of a Formula 2 sprint race in history. और हमने उनसे बात किया था. We were there in Delhi a few months ago when Arvid had come down. And it's interesting to see that Red Bull Racing already have a prospect lined up. कि अगर उनके driver lineup पे कुछ गलती हुई, if there's any mistake, there is Arvid there. It's an impressive win, right, for Arvid?
Impressive win because F3 से जब F2 driver promote होते हैं, one of the biggest challenges that the driver faces are with the tire, and everything else is the same, right?
Yeah.
The format is the same, 30 minutes.
More power, more mechanical options to tune.
Correct. But the main thing is adjusting to tires. And I think Arvid has done a great job already. There is limited testing in F2, unlike, F1 where you can take an old 2-year-old car and go around for 10,000 odd kilometers like Antonelli did. So I would say Arvid Lindblad being there, showing that he's in the top 5 pretty much every session as a young driver. And Dr. Marco himself told us, right? These are our new next world champion in the making. And the way in which he won, he knew that Richard for sure had a penalty. So he's like, okay, I don't need to go out and overtake him on track and just wait within 5 seconds and claim to win. And first of many wins, I would say, and hopefully we get to celebrate it with him before Imola.
इतनी सारी कमाल की कहानियां चल रही हैं मोटरस्पोर्ट की दुनिया में और क्या मजेदार बात है कि यहाँ फैन कोड के गेयर बॉक्स पॉडकास्ट पर पावर्ड बाय एमआरएफ हम ये सारी कहानियों को आप तक पहुंचा पा रहे हैं. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of this episode. I expected this to be a lot of fun and this definitely delivered. So thank you for coming down. Hopefully you'll be able to do this more often, yeah?
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. It's always fun as we've always seen several episodes that we've done together in the studio at the track as well.
It's a lot of fun और मजा नहीं रुकेगा क्योंकि इसके बाद MotoGP लौट रहा है French GP के साथ at the Le Mans circuit and Formula 1 is going into a triple header starting off with the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. बहुत सारे अपग्रेड्स आएंगे, पैकिंग ऑर्डर बदल सकता है और बहुत सारी नई कहानियां देखने मिलेंगी. लेकिन ये सब आप देख सकते हो सिर्फ फैन कोड पर. देखना मत भूलना फॉर्मूला 1, MotoGP और बहुत सारे इंडियन मोटरस्पोर्ट की भी कहानियां यहाँ पर. Thank you so much for watching the Gearbox podcast powered by MRF. We will see you very shortly.